guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Yes, it's our statements, our weekly statements and questions here on Minnesota Sports with Mackey and Judd. I know Judd already tipped his hand before we cracked the mics that his first statement will include some massive Timberwolves disrespect over the weekend. Almost felt intentional, so we will get to that. I'm going to lead us off with this one, boys. Anthony Edwards told the truth about how he feels being potentially the face of the NBA. And people have issues with it. I've seen a lot of Timberwolves fans even just like, why would he not want to be the face of the NBA? He didn't play in the All-Star game. And I will say this. I love the fact that Anthony Edwards is essentially the anti-face of the NBA.
The anti-face?
I've thought about this.
Change his face. He's the anti-face.
Now, I don't want him to be like a bad guy. I don't want him to get please don't get arrested. Don't be. And I know there's been some stories about Anthony Edwards. Maybe has some things to clean up in his personal life when it comes to, women and children and things like that.
Right.
Professional athletes. But I spent a lot of time thinking about this. KG was kind of this way. Anthony Edwards is kind of this way. Kobe Bryant, in some ways, he became a little bit more of a face of the league because Jordan retired. LeBron had not quite taken that throne yet, and the NBA needed someone in the early 2000s.
And if you get rings at that time, if you got rings, you by default became the face.
Yep. But there's always every era has that sort of anti-face. And KG, I thought, was a better player than Tim Duncan in a lot of ways for many years. But because KG was a little rough around the edges and he said bad words and he was very intense and the Wolves weren't winning championships like the Spurs, he was kind of in the shadow of Tim Duncan, even though he was every bit the player for most of those years. Tim Duncan was. And, Kobe actually had that legal case 20 years ago in Colorado, and there were some other reasons why the NBA kind of tucked him off to the side. But Jimmy Butler has been a little bit like this in some certain ways. I love that, and he's not a villain because he's very likable and he's smiling out on the court and whatnot.
Right.
But I kind of love that he just set the record straight right away here at age 23. He goes, that's what they got Wemby for. I don't need to be the face of the league. I want to show up, I want to kill people on the court, and I want to go home and do my thing. Hey, if that's him and he's not on the NBA and NBC commercials, I am fine with this. I'm fine with this.
His point is, let me drop F-bombs, quit finding me. This is me. This is me.
Because I fought this a couple months ago. I fought you on Flagrant Howls and said, dude, you don't have to drop F-bombs every other word. If you eventually want to be the face of the NBA, then, he doesn't want to be the face of the NBA. Right. At least we know.
Can we have a discussion, though? I actually saw this when I just walked out to pour, shockingly, a cup of coffee on First Take. And it was, who is the next face of the NBA? Can we have a discussion about what an old person argument that is? Like Michael Jordan was, right? But it's 2025, and kids they don't consume entire games. They consume highlights. They love certain players. But this whole need to have a face thing, to me, is a 20-year-old argument of, who's going to be on the national game of the week on NBC. It's Michael Jordan. The face of the league morphs and changes now, in my opinion, constantly. 3 years ago, Ja Morant was on course to be a face of, potentially he's a candidate, right?
Yeah.
In our current microwave society, and I'm not even criticizing it, I think this whole thing is an old person because we used to have Bill Russell was the face of the NBA at one time. Well, that was great. It was the 60s, and then it was the 70s.
So was OJ.
And yeah. So my point is this. I think it's a fruitless, pointless. Are there faces? Absolutely. And Ant is Ant is idolized by certain kids. He's a dynamic player. You can't dunk like Ant and be ignored. But like this whole thing about like there might be like one or two guys and they are the only faces. I think it's a argument made by executives who are my age who don't understand that I don't think that the youth of America that watches sports operates in this. Well, that's my only guy.
Yeah, he's almost like, if I could use we love to use wrestling references on the show that kind of go over Judd's head. Anthony Edwards is like a smiley, stone cold Steve Austin, and that he might wind up becoming the face of the NBA in some ways, specifically because he doesn't want to be the face of the NBA.
Yeah.
He kind of it's almost like he rejects the mainstream marketing wing of the NBA. No, he's on a Sprite commercial during the Christmas stuff, and there's still going to be stuff that blends into it, but it's interesting. So that's my take on it. I have kind of come around on this, and
I'm fine with him not wanting to be.
If he were to, like, if it were like everyone's goal and his goal to be, hey, he wants to be that dude who everyone looks at as the next LeBron, the next whatever, then dude, you can't be dropping 5 F-bombs every time you crack a microphone. It's just,
right.
You got to be a little more family friendly. Maybe just 4.
Just 3.
But KG dropped a lot of. KG didn't want. It's the same thing. KG was very serious on the court,
right,
and very focused, right, and had some fun. Anthony Edwards has a bajillion times, I feel like, more fun when he's out there. It's more all lighthearted.
Yes.
But they're both at their core killers who have no interest in really anything beyond the sweat equity in the offseason and just murdering people on the court.
If we were, and this would be appropriate, if we were to go through or make a checklist of places where Ant needs to mature, that's not one. Like I do think that he needs to show up for games more frequently. I would like to see him more frequently probably hold teammates accountable. But like if one of them is mature enough to be a guy that's deemed to be one of the faith, I don't care about that. Go win titles, dude. Go, and if you consider yourself to be a hero, that's awesome. If you don't, that's fine. But like the list of my Ant wish list of maturity, that whole thing to me is way down.
The other thing, like Michael, it's funny. I wonder how Michael Jordan would have been portrayed and received if he had played in the social media era. Because again, totally different. Like Anthony Edwards goes home and plays video games, and whatever. Like Michael Jordan went to the casino and played blackjack and played 36 holes of golf for $20,000.
You're exactly right.
If he's out smoking a cigar and drinking some whiskey on the golf course the morning of a game, how would that? We look back now and it's like, it's like the charming part of Michael Jordan. The flu game was really the hangover game because they were up all night or whatever.
Right.
How would that be as charming 30 years later as it is now? His vicious personality in some ways too. So in some ways, Anthony Edwards is kind of throwback compared to, because there's a lot of players now that just kind of want to get along, and they kind of want, like, he gets along with Kevin Durant, and he'll definitely give the dap to, LeBron James and Steph Curry from their Olympic stuff. But do you ever see Anthony Edwards hanging out on a wine country trip, private jet with Jimmy Butler and Draymond? Like, remember Carmelo and Dwayne Wade and LeBron and stuff? Yeah.
And game.
Giannis is kind of the same way too. Giannis is much more of a face of the league because he's a little more, he's a little more polished.
Yes.
But he also doesn't hang out with his opponents in the offseason.
Win championships, nobody will give a damn what the attitude is.
Yep.
About
all right,
that.
Judd.
Okay, my statement is, well, you know what? I'll just make a statement. If you're going to retire a man's jersey, make sure that said jersey is the right side up when said dude unveils it. So Terrance Shannon Jr. goes back and there's a ceremony in Illinois where I believe he played 2 seasons, is going to retire his jersey. It's awesome, right? And he pulls the cord and it comes down upside down. One of the funniest things I've seen in my life. But nonetheless, and then the AD post-game has to get up to the podium and apologize and make it very clear that there's certain things in life that cannot happen, including this. My God, what a complete gong show. Now it looked like Terrence just sort of laughed and like took it well. Good for him. But come on, really upside down.
The disrespect of an Illinois basketball legend, a future Timberwolves legend. Yeah, I get like people make mistakes, but how does that happen?
I have no idea.
So, presumably you lower the chains or whatever, the ropes or the cords, and you're doing it from like the court before the game. Correct. I'm saying like that when you hang it up, you're doing it, right? Okay. Is that like you would check for the spelling of his name, you would check for the number being correct, and then you would check for there's like a 3-item checklist. Well, name spelled right, number correct, and is it hung in the right direction?
But you would do it so like the majority of those things when the banner comes back, right? Like it's done. It comes back, you check on the spelling, you check on the number, you check on that. But then I would guess that the way it's done is somebody goes up in the rafters, right? And hangs it from the rafter.
Rehearsal. Yeah.
And then Shannon comes in at halftime and pulls the cord and it comes down. So the real suspect here is who hung it and how did they accidentally hang it upside down from the rafters?
It was someone from Purdue. It was Zach Edey went in there and said it was a Big Ten rival of some kind.
Just sort of an
poor guy. Thing. After such a great week, too, all the praise, the attention on him,
and he's going to get so much crap from his teammates now.
And he's going to be buried on the bench again once Mike Conley and Julius Randle and Dante come back. That's the last time you'll ever see Terrane Shannon Jr. Chris Finch made sure of it.
Stop it.
Not only do I not want to play my young players, I'm going to make sure that they get embarrassed by their alma maters.
Chris Finch did it. Drove to Champaign, hung it up upside down.
You're a little out of control on offense in that last game.
Oh, God.
We'll show you.
All right, I'll take a statement here from the Twins' new hitting philosophy, and we can maybe get into this on a Score North Twin show, but my statement is I'm curious to see how this works. So Bobby Nightingale, the Star Tribune, detailed some of the new hitting philosophies that Matt Borg-Schulte is going to be implementing here with the Twins going into 2025, saying goodbye to David Popkins and kind of overhauling a lot of stuff. And I saw this quote from Ryan Jeffers, which I thought was great. He said, quote, "Homers are great. Homers get you paid. A lot of big games are won by homers, but there are going to be a lot of games where a single through the 4-hole is going to score the run when it matters. I think practicing how you hope to play sometimes is good." Royce Lewis went on to say that Borg-Schulte's kind of attacking their weaknesses more and wants them to recognize what those weaknesses are. This is a complete overhaul in philosophy from David Popkins into Matt Borg-Schulte. Now, 2 years ago, the year they made the playoffs and snapped their streak, Twins had a pretty decent offense. They were 10th in runs scored. I think in the second half of the season, they were also one of the best offenses in baseball. There was times that offense played very well. But last year, especially situationally, they weren't too great. 2 strikes, they weren't great. Getting the runner over, they weren't great. They're going to be implementing new things where they're hitting outside more and doing less cage work and less individual type of work with hitting coaches and assistants. So my statement is I'm curious to see how this works because they're clearly overhauling their entire philosophy here. And they have a good lineup when it's on the field and healthy, of course, with their core players. But I'm curious to see what difference this truly makes for the Twins offense in 2025.
Yeah, this will be, I think, man, baseball and the Twins have fallen victim to this. Just, it's like teams have gotten away from some of the simpler things that worked very well for decades and decades. That you don't always have to be swinging for towering fly balls and home runs. Like, obviously, you're going to score a lot of runs if you hit a lot of home runs. But, yeah, I'd love to see, and I'm sure we can talk about this on the Score North Twin show, just not that the hitting coach has full influence over how an offense performs in baseball. It's much more about the players. But some of the philosophical things that maybe have worked for Baltimore, and which is where Borg-Schulte came from. How many years was he in Baltimore? Like the last 2 or 3 years?
The last 2 seasons, I believe, because he was with the Twins minor league system before that.
Yeah,
he worked a bunch of guys here.
Mm-hmm.
And what that looks like. I'm going to jump in here and piggyback off Dex with a twin statement of my own. Derek Falvey joined our old pal Jimmy Rich on Fox. So Fox 9, all the TV stations go down and do a week of spring training and set the tone for the local sports market. So Derek Falvey sat down with Jimmy Rich, it looks like, over the weekend for Fox 9. And I saw a clip here. I'm just reading a quote because I don't have the clip ready to play for you guys. But Derek Falvey said, quote, "We need to give ourselves a chance to win a World Series. That's got to be the mission from day one." So two-part statement. Number one, some praise. Bravo, Derek Falvey, for being brave enough to say that World Series is the mission. I feel like that hasn't been spoken out loud enough in Twins history. It's a franchise that oftentimes feels good enough just competing on the edge of the playoff chase, and then when it comes down to it, very few times do they make the one or two necessary aggressive moves, right? But to acknowledge that World Series is the mission, love that he's putting that out publicly. Part two of my statement is, dude, it's on you to be more aggressive at the trade deadline if you think this team is ready to win a World Series. Because in his 8-ish years as chief baseball officer, he has done virtually nothing at the trade deadline. We went over this at last year's deadline, but the only time the Twins have been in contention 6 seasons in Derek Falvey's history as the chief baseball officer, starting in 2017. He's been aggressive at the deadline once, and it was the year they acquired, it was 2022, where they acquired Jorge Lopez, Michael Fulmer, and Tyler Mahle, who instantly got hurt. He had an arm issue. Jorge Lopez kind of fell off a cliff. So if you believe World Series is the mission, and maybe this is a homework assignment for the Score North Twin Show, how many teams in the last 30 or 40 years, let's call it the last 30 years, modern baseball, have won a World Series doing virtually nothing at the trade deadline? And I'm sure there are some.
Yeah.
But that's the assignment for Falvey, is if you think World Series is the mission,
that's big talk.
You can't go trade for Trevor Richards as your big trade deadline move. Yep. You can't it can't be Sam Dyson with a back injury as your major trade deadline move.
Rocco doubled down on that too. I think it was on MLB Network earlier this week, or over the weekend, I probably should say. And he said, if you're not here to win the World Series, you're not here for any of the right reasons. So clearly there's a little bit of a PR attack coming out here from the top of Falvey and to Rocco of World Series is our goal. World Series, World Series, World Series.
All right.
Whether it's far-fetched or not, but I like it. I respect it.
But if I'm a player, I'm going to look back and say, hold on a second here. So we cut $30 million last year in payroll. Then this year, you suddenly are being thankful. Falvey was actually thankful. Ownership allowed us to go sign Ty France and a couple of other scrubbities. It's incredible. Yeah. So, like, that's
Can we sign a DeLorean to go back to the 2021 version of Ty France?
That's so I get it, but come on. That's all. You gotta back this up by spending. You gotta back this up through a lot of things. This to me feels like an entire PR scheme to get past the fact that this team, one, went in the dumpster. They acknowledge that. But two, it disintegrated. Like, if you saw this team last year, that last month was awful. Like, the clubhouse was poisonous. There's a lot of things. So, all right, back it up, guys. Everybody back it up.
I don't want them to back it up. I want that. Well, when you say back it up, you mean like back up the talk, or you mean, is it like back up, stop talking like that, or back up the bravado talk?
Back up the bravado talk.
Okay. Yeah.
And also start spending a lot more. And also let's get this done. Let's get, and the other thing too is, if you get fired, that's fine too. So if Falvey, to me, this whole thing feels very hanky. President in charge of everything.
Quite a bit of power in the organization.
Yeah,
it's an amount of power that is reserved for only the top baseball executives.
Theo Epstein.
like Dombrowski's or Epstein. Yeah.
Yes, but it also feels a little bit fishy though, that like right as the structure of the entire franchise from an ownership standpoint is about to change, that we now have one guy in charge of everything.
It's a lot. Another statement or two coming up here. I have a statement. Pep's Legit Pizza lives up to the name. Lives up to the name. It is legit. The Mackeys are planning tonight, when it's a bajillion degrees below zero wind chill. we're going to fire up the pizza oven and throw in a piping hot. Well, it won't be hot when we throw it in because you find them in the frozen aisle. But when it comes out after like 15 minutes, that crunchy, thin crust, stone-baked, zesty tomato sauce, exceptional ingredients, signature spice topping. I don't know what's in that signature spice topping, but it is.
Oh, that's great.
It is ridiculous.
I've had a couple. They're delicious. I dabbled in two
insane.
of them, and you cut them into squares like Phil. I'm usually I don't mind square pizza. I'm not against it, but I was like, I'll listen to Phil. I'll cut this sucker into squares.
Squares are better.
Worth it. So
it is. Start with a little corner piece just to taste, to see how
Just
hot it is.
And there's still a ton left.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
A couple corner pieces,
yourself.
then you kind of move your way in. Yeah,
I love where you're going with this.
Find Pep's Legit Pizzas at a store near you and have an authentic at-home pizza parlor experience. Also, MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air helping to power this episode.
Absolutely true. You know what? Minus 12 on Monday, minus 9 today. And if you have a furnace that's starting to hiccup and cough because it's certainly having to work hard, guess what? That is a concerning thing, and that is where my friends at MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air come in because, if you have plumbing, heating problems, you need somebody that you trust, right? And these folks, this is a 100% family-owned and operated business. MSP is committed to taking care of you and your family. Building trust is a big part of how they go about their business, and in this case, there is nothing more important than that trust. Book a $49 plumbing inspection by Friday and enter to win 2 tickets plus a $100 gift card for food, beverages, and more to the March 9th Wild game. For service, give them a call, 651-615-4292, or check out their website, callmsp.com. Call msp.com. Once they come to your house once to fix something, you will use them again and again because they will build that trust with you. That's so important. Call MSP.com is your first step.
All right. Judd, you want to hit us with
I got a Twins
at least one more here? All right.
I got a Twins one.
Okay.
Can we just say publicly, privately, everywhere, can we shout it to the mountains that Louis Varland is going to be pitching out of the bullpen? To quote Rocco, I am not prepared to say 100% locked in that Louis will pitch there, i.e. the bullpen, okay? Louis Varland, everyone knows this. He might not like it, but God clearly placed him on this earth to be a reliever. Can we just definitively say that? I don't know if they're trying to keep his spirits up. I don't know if it's Baldelli's sort of double speak where he privately has said that he's going to be pitching out of the bullpen or what, and I really don't care. But I want roles defined here. And I'm also, if you're going to go towards tough talk, if you're not here to win a World Series, then get out. Then let's also define...
Get your ass out of here.
Let's also define roles here. I mean, Varland wants to start. Well, I want to do lots of things, but guess what? I don't get to do them all. So he's a reliever. It's fine. It's cool. He was good there. He's effective there. So let's stop with we don't want to hurt his feelings. If you're going to be tough, if you're going to do the tough talk, guys, then walk the tough walk and tell people, sit them down and tell them what's what.
2 things. Number one, he's a failed starter. That is true. That is 100% true. He is not going to be effective as a starter. Right. I will say, though, this crowning of him as an elite weapon in the bullpen is way too premature.
Oh, you might be right.
He showed some flashes towards the end of 2023.
Good point.
There was some glimpses here, but
good point.
If anything, he is grabbing the last bullpen spot, and even in a bullpen pecking order, he is probably the last or second to last option that I'd go to if opening day were tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I agree. The handling of this has been poor, but he also
I hear ya.
he might not be that good. So we have to kind of wait and see.
I'm just saying, can we stop with the he might start thing?
Yeah, I agree.
But yes,
real quick here. I don't know. Sometimes these wins above replacement metrics are a little wonky, but according to Baseball Reference, he started 7 games for the Twins. He pitched out of the bullpen for 9, so he has 16 appearances, most of those innings as a starter. He was worth minus 1.4 wins above replacement. So a replacement level, kind of quad A level pitcher would have been worth 1.5 extra wins for the team than the innings that Louis Varland gave them, mostly as a starter.
Yep.
And when you're 27, if it's not even clicking for you in AAA as a starter at age 27, yeah, I don't want to pile on him, but
I agree.
I think he could be a really good reliever. He throws hard. Dex is right. We have to be careful crowning him the next lights out 8th or 9th inning guy. But come on, let's give old Louie a chance to have some success in the big leagues. Let's quit putting him in.
And let's stop talking like tough in general terms, and then telling players, well, we might do this. We're not quite sure. If you're going to be a hard ass, keep it consistent. Be a hard ass. Louie, you're a reliever, and Declan told me you might not even be good at that, so focus on that. I like that attitude.
Let's practice alignment here. So if our goal is to win a World Series, does a World Series team have Louie Varland in their starting rotation?
I love
probably not. If you want to win a World Series, does a World Series team get nickel and dimey about payroll?
We got Ty France.
Does a World Series team add either nothing or Trevor Richards? Over the past 2 years, they've been competitive around the All-Star break for sure, if not like into September. And over those last 2 All-Star breaks or trade deadlines, I'm sorry, they have made one move in 2 years, and it is the aforementioned Trevor Richards, who was DFA'd less than 1 month later. So congruence. All right, any other final statements or questions? Or
I think my final statement would just be that moving stinks. Like we don't close on this house for 2 more months. But my wife is a planner and loves to plan ahead. So on Sunday we attacked like the underneath storage unit of our staircase, which just has crap. It's literally where we moved into this house, and that is where all the extra crap went, and we haven't even looked at it in the almost 2 years we've been here. Yeah. So we went in, and we threw away a bunch of stuff. We did. We threw away like 4 bins worth of stuff, which was great. That was a great first start. And I'm like, this is 5%, 10% of the things we are going to be handling when we're moving. And that was like a 3-hour project on Sunday. So moving, not fun. That's why I'm buying a house, and I hope I'm not moving again for,
But moving is a great chance to purge things that
also
you
true. Yes.
You don't have to move. This is where I guess on a different show we could plug 2 men in a junk truck, because this is where you call your friends and you throw stuff away.
I'm gonna use
glorious.
it. You can bet your bottom dollar I'm gonna use it.
It is, and then then you have to unpack everything, and then getting the boxes and then getting rid of the boxes on the other side. It's just that's why Judd hasn't moved in 25 years.
Yeah, 25 years.
Yep.
And I probably won't move.
Phil did it across the
again.
bleeping country,
twice.
Twice. Twice.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Dude, because then you're without your stuff when you move across country, unless you pay someone to just or you could take your stuff and drive it yourself. I didn't trust myself to drive a moving truck through the mountains in the wintertime. So you pay a moving truck, and then they bring your stuff 2 weeks later. So you're literally sitting on an air mattress for 2 weeks.
As long as you get a company to move you, it's still a pain in the ass, but man, does that cut down on it. Because there's nothing worse than being 30 and your friends I'm moving and everyone's gonna help and I'll buy pizza. No. It's there's you cannot buy me enough pizza to make it worth my while.
Unless
no, it's 21.
It's Pep's legit.
Oh, Pep's legit.
That's right.
Then I will be there. Judd carrying up that couch.
There's not there. That's the worst. Can you help me move? At 21, it's fine. At 31,
there's a
inexcusable.
cutoff. In your 30s, you can't be asking friends to help you move. I feel like
no.
You either have to do it yourself or find a couple bucks.
Or just get a pro.
Yeah, I mean, not everyone can afford to pay.
Well, you can get some pretty when we moved here from our apartment, we got not a full service. It was 2 guys with a truck. Yeah, it was 2 men in a truck, right? And they moved the stuff here, but it was the couches. It was all. But
where did you find these 2 guys? Were you just?
It was a moving company,
Walmart,
but not but it wasn't a moving a huge truck. You know how you go cross country.
So it wasn't an official company, or
it was I don't even remember. But the point was they
guys
hauled the big stuff. I can haul some
window minivan or what?
Who cares? I can haul some. What are they gonna steal my couch? It's oh, okay, goodbye, see you later, couch. But I mean it. I can haul some stuff, but I ain't going to haul the big stuff.
I want to go back and see exactly. I want if there's like some way we can go back in time and
There's
see
no-
who are these two dudes that
I
Judd
mean, it was
found.
a moving. It was a moving company, but like an independent small one or something.
that's fair.
But like if the Mayfair truck, that sucker shows up, that's the big time. That's the big leagues. The Mayfair people.
That's right. All right, kids. There's your statements and questions here. Minnesota Sports with Mackey and Judd. Over on Purple Daily, we've got our 4.0 offseason Vikings blueprint where we do the Vikings' entire offseason in 1 hour. You can judge us. You can fire us if you want to. We'll see you tomorrow for some Write That Down predictions.